There's a difference between pain and suffering, and I want to illustrate this point with a story from my own life. So when I was diagnosed with breast cancer for the second time, I maintained a really positive attitude, and a lot of people remarked on it. A lot of people thought that that was really extraordinary. Now, for just a little bit of context, I ended up going through a lot of treatment, including a total mastectomy, reconstruction, and multiple rounds of chemotherapy and radiation. I lost all my hair. It started to grow back. I lost it all again. So it was a pretty extensive treatment. I mean, in the world of cancer, there are certainly people who don't get cured, and I take everything in that context. So I'm lucky at the end of the day. But that's not to say that it wasn't difficult, because it certainly was. But it was very, very clear to me that I had a choice as to how I went through it. I didn't have a choice about whether or not I went through it. The cancer was there and it needed to be treated if I wanted to live. The end. I didn't have any negotiation room in there. But from day to day, I could feel bad about it. I could really be depressed. I could be grouchy with everybody around me. I mean, heck, I had license to be. Everybody would certainly understand why I was feeling that way and why I was behaving that way. It's not like anybody could blame me for it. But I knew that if I was in a bad mood on top of just kind of feeling lousy and being scared and having all this stuff to deal with, that I was only going to make it worse and harder on myself. Not to mention, if I was being that difficult to be around, then the wonderful support system that I had wasn't going to be able to function as well and to help me out, and why should I punish them for being there for me? By the time this came around in my life, I had already done quite a lot of work on my own mindset, so this all just seemed really natural to me. It wasn't like it was a huge effort. In fact, there came a time in my treatment that was just a horrendous day, like a really, really terrible day. I had already been through 12 weeks of chemotherapy. I had already been through a mastectomy and reconstruction, and I thought I was at the end of my treatment. I went in to see my oncologist thinking, we're going to celebrate today. And it was at that point that she told me my exit pathology had revealed an entirely different population of cancer that we hadn't treated yet. And it had spread to my skin and all sorts of things. So I was going back into chemo just when I was starting to get some fuzz on my head. Not only that, but I was going to have 6 weeks of radiation and then an additional 14 months of infusions after all of that. That was one of the hardest days of my life. I'm not going to lie. I absolutely collapsed into a puddle of tears. I was devastated. I don't want you to think that I'm some Pollyanna and that I was like, oh, well, things happen. Hell no. I was a wreck. I was a wreck for a couple of days. And then I got creative. I thought, okay, I'm going to lose all my hair again. I've got an artistic child. He can do a henna crown for me. So he designed this beautiful design. We bought a henna kit and he put a henna crown on my head so that it wasn't just me being bald again. It was just a little bit different. And then I knew I was going to feel lousy from the chemotherapy because not only had I felt bad the first rounds, but it was going to be worse because this was harder stuff. And I made a very conscious choice. I decided, well, if I'm going to feel bad either way, why should I just sit around at home and be bored? At least I can go out in public and try some things. And we went to museums and we went to Shakespeare in the Park. And, we had some experiences, and maybe I wasn't at my most energetic and vivacious, but it was better than sitting around staring at the same four walls all the time. I'm not sharing this to toot my own horn and say, oh, look how wonderful I am that I was positive through cancer treatment. I'm just trying to show you that it's possible. I'm just trying to show you that no matter what your experience is, no matter how bad it is, you can rise above it. You do have a choice. At the end of the day, we can't control what happens to us. We can't control what's thrown into our lives, but we do get to control our reaction to it, our response, and how we behave in the face of adversity.